Gian, are you listening? Gian wanted me to come to his party, but I didn't want to. That's what he kept calling it, his party. And so one night after my reading, I finally agreed to go. He told me all the coolest writers in the world would be there, and he wanted me to meet his co-editor, Luke. He said, Luke shit standing up. I said, what? Gene said it was some weird hippie shit or something, like how cavemen shit standing up for 1,000,000 years. He said squatting to shit was bad because it pinched your colon. I made the mistake of asking Gene how he found out how Luke shit standing up, and then Gene told me he went to the bathroom one night and saw Luke's John shoe prints on his toilet seat. He came out and confronted Luke about why he was standing on his toilet seat, and Luke finally admitted, I shit standing up. He told Gian about pinched colons, and I didn't know it yet, but I would meet Luke in the bathroom that very night. When I heard someone shout my name, I would look up from the urinals and see Luke's head poking out from above the bathroom stalls. He was in his stand-up shit position. Now Gian and I kept walking until we were out of breath. Asked Gian how his boyfriend was doing, and he said, not good. I asked what happened. He said his boyfriend started exercising. It was really pissing him off. Gian's boyfriend's knees were bad, so he went to a doctor and told him he needed to exercise and lose weight. I told Gian, but that's great. I was really happy his boyfriend was getting healthy. And then Gian lit another cigarette and snapped, no, it's not. He told me if his boyfriend lost too much weight, then they were fucking done. I said, but Gian, it's for his health. And then Gian told me he liked big guys. If he gets skinny, then what the fuck are we even doing together? Might as well get married and start holding hands in public. I laughed and kept following Gian until he stopped and checked his phone. He said, fuck, and sucked his teeth like he always did. We'd been walking 2 miles in the wrong direction. Then I asked if we should get a cab, and Gian said, sure. We tried to hail a taxi and watched one pass and then another. I looked at my watch and said, we're going to be late. Gian said it was his party, so he could be late if he wanted to. Then the cab finally stopped, and Gian and I got into the back seat, kept talking about his party in the open bar and how it was going to be so great. He was charging $20 at the door, but he'd get me in for free. We drove through the lights bright, and Gian asked what time it was, so I told him. Then the song Sweet Child of Mine came on the radio, and Gian shouted, oh, fuck yes, this is my jam. I watched Gian play the opening riff on his stomach air guitar style. I laughed, and the cab driver drove, and the song played soft. Gian leaned forward and asked the cabbie, hey, my man, would you turn up the song, please? The cab driver looked back and shook his head. No. But Gian didn't see him and said, hey, man, would you turn this up? Cab driver repeated, I will not turn this up. And Gian said, what? This is fucking Sweet Child of Mine. The cab driver said, no, I will not turn up this Sweet Child of Mine. I told Gian it was okay and just relax, but then Gian completely lost it. He yanked on his door handle and said if the guy didn't turn it up, he was getting out of the cab. He started to push on the unlocked buttons of the door. The cab driver seemed confused. Gian pointed at him and shouted, just pull over right now and let us out. Gian told him he wasn't going to ride in a fucking cab that wouldn't let him turn up one of the greatest songs in the whole history of the world. The cab driver told Gian it wasn't one of the greatest songs in the whole history of the world. Then they started arguing some more. Gian struggled to unbuckle his seatbelt. He whipped his door open at 50 miles an hour. He almost fell out until, holy shit, I shouted and yanked him back inside. I saw the street rushing by below us. The cab driver panicked and said, okay, sir, I will turn it up. So Gian slammed the door shut and said, finally. He told the cabbie if we were back in West Virginia, you'd get your ass kicked over something like this. I told Gian, we weren't in West Virginia anymore. Now the cab driver turned it up and the song played. Gian bobbed his head along and leaned forward. He laughed and patted the cab driver on his back and said, hell yeah, my man, that's what I'm talking about. The cabbie told him not to touch him, but Gian didn't care. So listen now. The song is starting over, and we're driving to a party in the East Village with the radio on, and for a single moment, we're not worried about what happens to all of us in the end, because for right now, we're all driving through the beautiful city, and we have rock and roll in our hearts. So turn it up, Gian, and let us ride. And now the song ends. And the cabbie pulls over and slows to a stop, and we're finally here. It's Gian's party. I saw a whole line of people stretched down the front of the building all waiting to get inside. I couldn't believe there were so many people. Gian smiled and said, what can I say? I throw a great party. I paid the cab driver and we both got out. We walked to the sidewalk where the line of cool people reached all the way to the front. I stopped and stood at the end of a long line. But Gian just kept walking. He turned back and said, what the fuck are you doing? I told him I was waiting to get inside. Gian told me we weren't waiting. This was his fucking party, man. I asked if he was sure, and Gian just laughed and kept walking. So I followed behind him all nervous in my cheap suit, and we walked past writers whose faces I recognized from the internet. faces you can see now on the cover of hardback books. I smiled at these faces as we passed and whispered, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. They all looked at me with faces of disgust, faces that said, who the fuck do these two assholes think they are? Someone said in a nerdy voice, hey man, you can't skip line. Gian didn't care. We just kept walking. I followed close behind all the way to the front, together like brothers. But then we stopped. There was a security guy standing at the front door and he was taking money and letting all the people in. Gian tried to squeeze past him, but the security guy put his big arm out and shouted, stop. The security guy said, no skipping. You have to wait in line like everybody else. So Gian tried to sweet talk him, but this is my party, dude. I'm the one who's throwing it. I'm Gian. I told Gian it wasn't a big deal. We could just wait in line like everybody else. Then the security guy asked Gian to repeat his name. The guy reached for a clipboard and scanned the list of names to look for it. He flipped to a second sheet and said, I'm sorry, sir, but your name's not on the list. You'll just have to wait in line like everybody else. Then Gian fucking lost it. He repeated, but this is my party, dude. I hired you. I'm the one who made the list. The security guy said, well, sir, if you were the one who made the list, you should have put yourself on it. So Gian kept arguing. He pointed to the poster on the door. It said New York Tyrant. Gian said, that's me. I'm him. I'm New York Tyrant. The security guy shook his head and told him he didn't fucking care. Heard people in line complaining. The security guy stopped saying he was sorry and finally shouted, next. So Gian backed away and started furiously texting Luke so we could get inside. And then the long line of people started filing past us. I told Gian it was fine, we could just wait. But then Gian said he didn't understand. I thought he was going to cry. He looked just like a little boy. And now we did the only thing we could do. We started to walk down the long, long line past all the faces we just passed a few seconds before, and this time the faces were all looking at us with smirks of scorn. But we refused to wait. This time their faces said, what a bunch of fucking fools. They'd gone to fancy schools that cost more than a house, and Gian and I were from the same place called nowhere. We paid a bunch of absolutely nothing. And so I saw that somehow this was my friend's life. We walked to the end of the line and took our place. And so we waited, just like everyone is waiting, to get inside. And I saw we'd both been born just an hour away from one another, where we felt so alone sometimes growing up in the mountains. But it had finally happened. We finally found one another here. So Gian, meet me in the city tonight. I know you are dead, but meet me in the city at your old apartment in Hell's Kitchen, and we'll go and drive fast in the back of taxi cabs. We'll sit in the bar at the Jane Hotel, and it'll be just like long ago when I first loved you, when we were both alive. Thank you.